Good morning, good afternoon, good night, Ms. Kiko. Our group will be presenting Porterfie's forces analysis for Genting Group. So what is Porterfie's forces is used for? Porterfie's forces is a model that identifies and analyzes 5 competitive forces that shapes every industry and helps determine an industry weaknesses and strengths. After the analysis, it also reveals the power of each forces, whether it is low, it is weak or stronger. So the forces including supplier power, threat of new entry, customer power, threat of substitute, and finally the competitive rivalry. So the diagram here showing that the arrow pointing each other, this means that these forces are interrelated to each other. And the competitive here is pointing outward, some tie inwards, tells us that the competitors themselves will also need to consult with all these 4 forces as well as their own competitors. So the power of forces for Genting Group, for each forces for Genting Group will be showing here. We will talk about it in detail later.
Hello, I'm Lee Booming and I'll be talking about the supplier bargaining power, one of the forces from the Porterfie forces. And the company that my group has chose is Genting Berhad, and Genting Berhad has a low supplier bargaining power due to the fact that the products are easily substituted and the products also lacks differentiation. Not only that, Genting doesn't only have a select few suppliers, they have suppliers from different regions, therefore making the bargaining power of the supplier lower. And also on the right, there's the image which shows the power of a supplier group is dominated by a small number of companies and is more concentrated to the industry to which it sells. But that's not the case for Genting, as it has many suppliers and also the products can be substituted and the products lacks differentiation. That's all from me, and I'll pass on to my next group mate. Thank you.
Hi guys, my name is Sheng Tao and I'll be taking the part of the threat of new entrants in Porterfie forces. So, threat of new entrants refers to the threat that new competitors pose to existing competitors in an industry. Competitors between existing firms in Genting increase if customers are not loyal to the existing brands because other customers are easier to attract due to low cost of change. On the other hand, rivalry between existing companies is low when products are highly diversified and rapidly growing. Low exit barrier would also affect companies because they could easily leave the industry without incurring significant loss. Genting can tackle this by developing a long-term customer relationship by addressing existing customer needs and expectation. For the example, threat of the new entry for Genting is quite low because Genting monopolized the casino market and all Malaysians can only gamble in Genting.
Hi, me, I'm Jingwei. I wanted to talk about the consumer's bargaining power. So why does it matter? A strong bargaining power will lower the profitability and increase the industrial's competition. But on the other hand, a weak bargaining power will be less competitive and it will increase the profitability and growth. So in the Genting's case, the consumer's bargaining power is high. So now let's talk about the factors that will increase the bargaining powers of buyers. The first one will be a more concentrated customer base. As it is more concentrated, it will be harder for the consumers to switch between products. So the next one will be a low demand, high supply. If the demand for products is lower when the supply is high, consumer will have more choices to choose and compare from. So the third one will be consumers' price sensitivity and high market knowledge. Consumers being able to compare prices as well as knowing the average market price and making multiple choices before making purchase will make it harder for them to persuade the current and future potential customers. So now let's pass it to our next presenter.
Hello, my name is Chua Peng Wen, and the threat of substitute is an alternative product or service that a customer can buy instead of your offering. Not from a direct competitor, but a product or service that can do the same things your offering does, but is from another industry. An example of the threat of substitute for the Genting Group, the Air Bed and Breakfast, which is known as the Airbnb. The force power is low because the Genting Group are more well organized. The Genting Group as an historical tourism industry have their own management system that supports them to be able to sustain until now. They are also having fair price that can be acceptable by most of the customer, and as one of the most iconic tourism industry in Malaysia, they have a larger customer base comparing to the Airbnb.
Now we will talk about the competitive rivalry force of Genting Group. The force power is high because Genting is a multinational company. It is founded in Malaysia and had expanded its business across the globe, the country including United Kingdom, Hong Kong, Singapore, China, Philippines, Korea, Macau, and United States. And since it is a multinational company, that means it has a lot of competitors around the world. Regardless, it is from local, it is from other country, and all these competitors will have one goal, is to take away the market share from their competitors as many as they can, and their ultimate goal is to monopolize the market. And competitors are cunning. They will always figure out a strategy to change your customer opinion from your product is good to their product is better. So in this case, Genting Group has to be aware of it and always maintain customer impressions that their accommodation is high quality, high standard, and most importantly, always better than their competitors. Thank you.
So throughout the assignment, I've learned organizing is indispensable in management. Organizing's purpose is the process of identifying and grouping the work to be performed and establishing relationship for the purpose of enabling people to work most effectively together in accomplishing objectives. Authority, responsibility, and delegation are the core of organizing. The company structure approach can be differentiated into functional, divisional, matrix, team, and virtual network. In the future, this skill may help me to avoid confusion and delays, duplication of work, and overlapping efforts.
For the reflection part, I learned that Porter 5 forces model is an important tool for understanding the main competitive forces when working in an industry. This can help company to assess the attractiveness of an industry and pinpoint areas where company can adjust the strategy to improve profitability. At last, I also learned from this subject that management skills are important because they can help your company run smoothly and able to communicate clearly, coordinate and motivate staff.
Hello, I'm going to do my reflection. Here is my name and here is my student ID. I learned that proper management and leadership is important for any company. It is the core of connecting different people working together to achieve the same goal. Just like the image showing here, different people working together to complete the puzzles. I learned that management is an art, so there's no one holy grail way of managing a company. Different management theory and way of managing a company can be applied to different company at different situations. And followed by theory X and Y by Douglas McGregor. It is simple and crude. It is my favorite theory because it simply differentiates people into two different categories. One is motivated by money, while the other one is motivated by ambitions. And there is difference between management and leadership. Management is doing things right, while leadership is doing the right things. It is more important to do the right thing than to do the things right by Peter Drucker, the father of modern management theory, emphasized that leadership is much more important and it cannot be taught like management theory. Leadership is about solving conflicts, removing the unhealthy relationship for different people to work together to achieve the same goal for the organization. Thank you.
Hello, I'm here to talk about my reflection from what I've learned in the course and how I'm gonna use it in my future. So I'm gonna be talking about the topic which is strategy versus plans. Strategy is what needs to be done to achieve one or more business objectives with long-term goals and vision. And similarly, it's different from plans. Plans includes detailed course of actions and tactics to be used. So in other words, a plan will explain how a strategy will be executed. So some examples are the activities and tasks to be carried out, the roles and responsibilities, as well as a schedule with a proper deadline and everything. Now, how I'll use this in my life is whenever I work with my group, or in the future when I go to the working force, I'll be able to use this to successfully talk and communicate to my groups and my co-workers to be able to achieve a certain goal. Thank you very much.
What is communication? From what I've learned, to communicate effectively is to present a more detailed message to the listener for a better understanding to avoid any miscommunication. Listening is also important, as paying respect and an open mind will help interpret one another's messages as well as to understand their point of view. And the last one would be to avoid using electronic communications to express your own emotions, such as when you're being angry, apologizing, explaining, etc., as emotions can be conveyed effectively to show this sincerity. So now I'll pass it to the next presenter.